Okay, I just started recording right now. Not too sure. Okay, hi everyone. Um, my name is Lydia again. Thank you so much for joining us today. And just to let you know that this conversation is live on Facebook and we're gonna record it for our YouTube page as well. Yes, and we thank everyone who's joining today, and we guess other people are gonna join later. And yes, let me check on our Facebook. The conversation is there. One moment. Okay, great. Yes, thank you so much. So this is our 10th workshop, and we thank everybody who has been with us, from the first workshop, that's, mid-January. It's been a long journey, and we thank you so much for your support. We thank everyone who's been present, invited, and supported us in many ways, especially this CARY organization that helped us to share the message, get participants. It's been a great journey, and actually from Beyond the Veil, we are so honored to be able to serve our community, not only in a difficult moment, but at the same time be able to really encourage, share hope with our community. Just today, I had to reflect on, the last 9 workshop we've heard. It's been really a journey. It's been challenging. When we see a workshop on Saturday, there's so much work in there. There's so many things the team have to put together to make sure that we have like a successful workshop. So I want to thank Beyond the Veil team. I want to thank especially our instructors that we have heard from the first day. There's Brand, there's Nor, there's Charlotte, there's Shell, and many more guest speakers. It's been a great journey, and we are really honored, and we had a great experience. We received your feedback, and we're gonna continue to improve and do better to make sure that we're serving our community. Our goal again is to help our community to see beyond their circumstances with a different lens. Is there any knowledge, any tools we can share with our community that can help them, especially on our healing journey? Because Rwandan people, we share a lot, especially our history. There's so much we share. And even that's why this last conversation, we chose to have this specific topic on how to cope with grieving, loss. I think this morning I asked one of my son, I asked him, what was the most difficult thing you have to deal with, during the pandemic? And he told me, there is a family member we lost in December. And then she was like, that was very difficult to lose someone in the pandemic. So, and, although we had a chance to even able to attend the funeral, there are many people among us who lost their family members, not even able to visit them while they were sick or even be able to attend their funeral. It's been really heartbreaking in many ways. And we are getting closer to the week of the commemoration week, where we remember people, or many Tutsis, over 1 million, that were killed in the Rwandan genocide against Tutsi. That's another really difficult moment for many people. When we talk about loss, we're not only talking about people that we lost. There are people who lost jobs, people who lost, even relationships. We heard that, the rise of divorces, so many things. So, people lost so many things in many ways. Even, losing what we call our routine, our normal routine, or our normal life. So myself, I'm not gonna say much. I think you saw that I was the guest speaker. The reason why I just wanted to talk to our community was more, to thank them for welcoming Beyond the Veil, in a very difficult moment, and to even allow us to be part of your daily life. Every single day we're sharing, content, and there are people who are telling us how it's really useful and helping them. Whatever we share is because, we get to see what's happening out there, and then we find ways to encourage. So I want to thank everyone. I'm not going to take that much because I want to make sure that we're done on time. I'm gonna need to welcome Noah Mugenyi again. This is not the first time we have heard him. Noah, not only that he's a therapist, he's also an author, he's a speaker. He's actually, he carries some Rwandan blood in his uh, uh, life as well. So yeah, Noah really, he is amazing in ways that he support our community. I would say more of like, you know, the African community and not only the indigenous community and Canadians in general. He does a really an amazing job. I can't even know how I can describe that because, you know, when I look into how much he's been able to achieve from the last few years, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I think anybody who understands the need of mental health or the need of, you know, or how many people out there who are suffering from mental illness or addiction without any help, I think you won't have to sit down. The minute you understand the need, you're gonna have to stand up and do something. Even myself, when I started Beyond the Veil, it's not because I was equipped. I wasn't equipped enough to start this, but I saw the need and I saw that it was a really high need. So, and I think it's the same thing with Noah. He has a passion for our people. He has a passion for the community, and he worked so hard. He worked so hard. You know, the first time I attended his book launch, Restored, I was so amazed to see how much he's accomplishing, you know, from, you know, helping religious and not religious communities everywhere. You know, it's a lot, but what we can do is joining, you know, our force, coming together. It doesn't matter what you have. Especially, I think last week I was reading a book. They were saying that stories that need to be shared are not shared. Most of the time we read stories from Bell Talk, Hollywood celebrities about mental health, but most of the time it's so hard for us to relate to those stories. So it's important if you have any way to share. This is not just about like successful stories, because what we call successful stories is always, oh, how I overcame. We can even share our journey, because what matters on this learning of mental health, it's understanding the importance of being on that journey of mental health, being on the journey of healing. It's a journey. It's not, there's no, I won't say there's no destination, but, you know, the understanding is not that, you know, there's a final line right now, you know, come here, you're gonna get healed right now. The idea is to be able to acknowledge, recognize that, recognize those feelings that, you know, are overwhelming in ways. And yeah, there's a lot. I'm not gonna take much. I think I'm gonna welcome Noah. Noah, this is your space, and everybody here. Somebody told me something special last week. They were like, you know, let's start using more the breathing space rather than safe space. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so good, because we need to even get to the point where we are in a place to feel like, can I just breathe after a long battle, after a long struggling? I just need to breathe, because, you know, people who suffer from anxiety, they know that part. When you really trying to breathe normally and it's not even happening, you know, when you get to that point, it feels so great. So, you know, this is a breathing space. Any question, Noah said that he want to have interactive conversation with you guys. Please feel free on Facebook. You can add another chat. Here on webinar, you know, we can have, you know, we can add the conversation under the chat. Thank you so much. I welcome everybody Beyond the Veil. We really love you. We love our community. Thank you so much. Welcome, Noah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Lydia. Ndishimwe kuba namwe uyu munsi. So I'm so grateful to be here with you. Wherever you're listening from, you're tuning in from, we love you. Too much love from Canada. We know people are going through so much right now, no matter where you are. The pandemic is still going on. So keep wearing your masks, sanitizing, and of course, really being there for one another, because we are in this together. And I like to think life. We are in this life together. Today's topic is really heavy in its own, but I wanted to make it more interactive because, as Lydia mentioned, we are dealing with memories, histories. As Rwandese, as Africans, we have a history, you know, be it the slave trade, be it the genocides in South Africa or in Rwanda, be it the wars that our countries are going through. So be it the pandemic, so people have lost loved ones. And today's questions we have, I wanted to start with the first one for us to think about before we even dive into today's topic. Thank you so much, Lydia, for doing that. The question I want to start with today is, what is it? What is one or two things that you yourself, you are grieving? A sense of loss. Lydia mentioned it's not just somebody's dying or somebody that was killed in the genocide that we are thinking of today. But what is it? Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it a close family member that died a few years ago other than the genocide? Is it the pandemic that claimed one of your committee members that you knew? So let us think about that for a minute. What is it that we are grieving in this moment? Depending on who we have today, but for young people, it could be maybe a sense of being in school, just being with friends, you know, playing in recess, you know. Think about it. I also posted a few questions Lydia might share with us or read there in our chat. Things that you might think about as we discuss today. And I would like us to actually have a conversation, because when we are really thinking of grief and loss, there is a lot going on for us, like individually. The way Lydia might grieve a sister, like I remember you speaking about your sister when we connected some time back. Your other sibling might grieve, I know you have a brother, he might be grieving that same sister totally differently. And you ask yourself why? Why are people different in their way of grieving? So anyway, let us just jump in. I'm so grateful to be doing this again in conjunction with Beyond the Veil, supporting our people who are, of course, grieving their loved ones, but of course, other things. Lydia, do you mind just reading us the questions that I posted in the chat, just to start with? Then we can hear if somebody can definitely relate with one of those questions.
Yes. Yeah, you said that the first question you wanted to know if there is anyone going through a grieving right now.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so hi guys, if you can answer under the chat or
you don't have to mention your name.
Yeah, under Q&A question, you know, if you're going through any grieving, even on Facebook, if you know, are you currently coping with grieving and loss? Ese waba uri guca mu bihe byo kunamira umuntu wabuze cyangwa hari umuntu wabuze muri bino bihe, watubwira, wadusangiza. Murakoze. Kubwanjye, yes, I have lost many people that I know, especially from the beginning of the pandemic, to the point I feel like, you know, bimaze umuntu asigaye anamamaga havuga ninde wundi hari undi muntu waba wapfuye. So not only that, I think like, you know, it's not just losing people. I think, you know, I'm a very interactive person. I like to socialize and all of that. Not being able to meet with my friend, for me, it's a big loss, because that's how you know, after a very heavy day, that's how I really recharge myself from, you know, talking to people that I love, connecting. So that's a loss for me. So share with us under the chat, please. Thank you. No one needs to be, you know, very interactive. Even if you want to open your mic to discuss, I think I'm gonna need to move people to the panel so they can be able to speak. Otherwise, you can send a message. Thank you.
That's right. I should also add, as people think of what they want to share.
Yes, Hari, somebody just said that they lost their uncle 2 days ago. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing.
We are sorry to hear that. We are sorry to hear that, and thank you so much for sharing. And when you hear somebody share something of that nature, in Africa, from what I remember, being a Canadian, when somebody dies, we all know, we all come together. We run to the place. The women start cooking, the men go get the food if they can, the firewood, and we start supporting the family member. Here in Canada, some of the communities, they've started something whereby we support the family, we might contribute something and all of that. But during the pandemic, things have changed. Even the burials have changed in Africa from what I'm hearing. We are no longer getting the big numbers of the supports and even the contributions, you know, people are going through a lot. So I'm so thankful to hear our sister. What's your name? Or I don't know if they shared a name, but your uncles, 2 days ago, how are you doing? That's the question you should be asking yourself. We will see that when people lose their loved ones, of course, shock, and we'll share in my slides, shock happens. No, this can't be happening. Is uncle dead? Uncle so-and-so is dead. Shock hits you. So you ask yourself, how are you doing right now? I don't know if the burial is taking place. Are you able to really, you know, really grieve that person the way you want? Because the pandemic has really caused a lot of limitations.
Yeah, she's saying that she is in denial right now.
That's definitely normal. I want to normalize things today for people. And by the way, the best way for us to really confront some of these issues like grief and loss, you might need space. Like for some people who are introverted, in English we call them introverts and extroverts, people who like to connect with others like myself. I get energy from talking with people and connecting. Other people, like, they just want to be alone. So you might see somebody during this process of loss and grief just pulling away, you know, not wanting to talk. Other people, they just want to connect. They just want to be with somebody because maybe kids, maybe an aunt and uncle is died. They just want to cling to the aunt, be around them. So these behaviors might be an indicator for you to see as an adult, say maybe my niece, my nephew is actually going through grief. They may not be crying or shedding tears, but their behavior, or maybe wetting a bed for over one night. The kid wakes up, they just peed the bed. That could be also a sign. I just wanted to mix up some of these realities for people to understand that grief is different for everybody. Lydia, do we have anything, anybody else that chipped in? If not, then we can move to the slides.
Yes, sure, thank you. We have
Please.
more questions. I think we're gonna get through them as we continue. Thank you.
That's right. Let's fly through the slides and then we can have questions at the end.
Okay.
Or in between, I don't mind.
Thank you.
Second, yes, these are some of the things we would like to think of. Loss and grief being explored. What does that mean for you when you think of loss? As I asked earlier, it's going to be different. Somebody could be grieving a loss of a job right now. We have a loss of maybe identity. For you, maybe it was that job that, you know, you would wake up and go to, and now it's all gone. How are you managing with that? As I said earlier, kids, teens, or even us adults, we go through grief, but we grieve differently. And the way we experience these kinds of senses of loss is going to be from person to person. And the symptoms being experienced during the grief and loss are going to be different. Somebody might lose, I'm just going to touch things as we go. Somebody might lose a sense of sleep. They go to bed, they want to sleep, but they can't fall asleep. And somebody could maybe lose the appetite and stuff like that. Slide number 2 here, I wanted us to really understand that going through a grief is a process. It's a process. It's not 1 + 1 equaling to 2. It's going to be different for everybody. So I wanted to emphasize also that this is a part of our human life. We live and grow, and of course we age and then go. For those who believe or who have a sense of spirituality, you might actually think of, like, when we die, where do we go? Questions like that. And maybe a child might ask you, Mommy, Daddy died, where did he go? These are some of the things. Be open to those conversations so that you allow people to grieve in the best way possible. Next slide, Lydia. So these are some of my favorite quotes I wanted to challenge you to think of as we look at life. Jimmy is a writer and a blogger. He actually, no problem. He mentioned of life as being, you know, something that you actually go through your own. So you definitely have to live it. And the other quote was about actually, you know, go back a little bit, Lydia, to the quote.
Yes. Yeah, one moment. Sorry.
No problem. And if you can't, I can summarize, no problem. We can go with the flow. Perfect. Yeah, the other one I wanted to emphasize on was Ralph's one, the Waldo one. He said, sorrow makes us all children again. It destroys all differences of intellect. The wisest know nothing. Seriously, when we think of times like the genocide, when things like atrocities happen to our people, people lost like a sense of understanding. You're like, what's going on? So that's what death and the sense of loss might do to even an adult or somebody who is capable and credible of knowledge. Next one. Yes. So with Dr. Elizabeth here, Ross, she's known for her book, of course, on death and dying. She identifies 5 emotions I wanted us to really touch on. And number one, when we sense loss or grieving, of course, we deny. Somebody mentioned earlier, we deny, you know, that something is really happening right now. For some people, they might get into a sense of getting angry, you know, the frustration of what that has caused you. For some people, they get into the bargaining. It's like, no, it's not happening. Maybe you just got a diagnosis for cancer. You might think, no, this is not happening to me. That's a lie. Maybe the doctor didn't really do the blood work right. A sense of depression for some may happen. And of course, finally, we get into what we call a sense of acceptance. The other senses of losses I wanted to touch is, of course, the identity, sense of safety, sense of autonomy, which, of course, who you are. And of course, some of the dreams not being realized, like for some going through a pandemic right now. People thought they would be graduating last year. They are pushed to, sorry about that. They are pushed to graduating a year after. Next. Yes, so with this, I wanted us to really explore a little bit about of what I was saying earlier, that people go through stages when death happens or a sense of loss. For some people, stage 1 is denial, and that's how you can see how it plays in the reality.
Sorry.
And then the next, no problem. The next stage would be, of course, after you go through that sense of denial, you might get into that anger, as I said. And for some, that might look like, you know, you go to work, you feel like really triggered so easily by a colleague, or you are in your household, your wife is asking about maybe the groceries or going to, you know, the next plan you had, and then you just snap like that. That's the anger. And for some, it might be just withdraw, as I said. They might just cut off. They don't want to talk. Next slide, Lydia. Yes. And then the third one would be bargaining, as I said. And, you know, the stages are the same, but I just wanted you to see how that plays into the chart. The next slide we have here is, of course, something I wanted to pause a little bit here, Lydia. If people can really, maybe we get another participant here to share a little bit about what it is, some of the questions that might have gone through their heads when a sense of loss clicked. Let's say for you, Lydia, let me start with you. When you got the news of your sister dying, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
I felt betrayed. Because I have told her that I wanted her to stay alive so she can see my kids.
That's right. So there was an expectation on your end, kind of like you got a pact. You say, sister, stay. I know your story a little bit. We want to get into it, but yeah, your sister, she was going through probably challenges like my brother from what we chatted about. But unfortunately, because of the situation and the factors that played into her situation, she was gone. And then all of a sudden you're like, how could you do that? How is this possible? So the anger, did you get a little bit of anger at some point? I'm just curious.
I think myself, her passing really woke up every loss that I've had in the past that I didn't get a chance to grieve for. Yeah.
That's right. No, the one observation I wanted to say here for people, normally in Africa, when somebody dies, we hear people say, you know what? No, somebody's died or is gone. Just forget about it. Get over it. That's one observation I want to really warn people or caution people that, you know what? You never know what you might be saying, how much damage is going to do to the other person, because you don't know what their grieving process, how connected they were with this person. So things like that, we have to really be mindful of. Next one, Lydia. Yes. On this one, I wanted us to watch this video. I think it would be really worth a moment for us. The other things we can read and summarize, but let us take a moment to watch this video, and I will be asking a few questions at the end. Go ahead, Lydia.
Okay, one moment. Thank you. Okay, you tell me if you can hear the voice, okay?
Okay.
Can you hear?
And you can make it bigger.
Can you hear the voice?
Maybe it's just starting. Let's see. Not yet.
No?
Not yet. Maybe give it a few seconds. It might be starting later. Just keep it going. It looks like it's playing at least.
One moment.
Sure. Yeah, people were not hearing.
Yeah, remember to share the sound. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that part, can somebody tell me how to share the sound?
So on your end, I think if you went to the video, try to play it on your end. Do you hear the sound fast? Because you have to hear it fast before you share it.
Yeah, I did hear it.
So then you look at the sound micro, it's like a little thing. If it is clicked, that should be okay to go, because once you play it should go. Because it looked like it was starting to play. And you can forward it a little bit forward and see if that makes a difference. Maybe the voices come after a few seconds.
Okay.
Hey, Lydia.
Yes.
Okay, so when you share a screen, when you share the screen, you're gonna.
There we go.
I'm here to honor my mom. I'm here to honor my dad.
I'm here to honor my stepdad and my granny.
The main mission of Camp Aloha has always been to reach children who have had losses of various kinds and to help them come together in such a way that they find that their grief is normalized. Our children come to us having experienced losses of all kinds. Many of our kids have come to us through our hospice families and have experienced their loved ones dying from cancer or other what we might consider to be natural causes.
I am here to honor my grandma. My grandma, she died from cancer. I wanted her to know that I'm okay without her, but I'm not at the same time. I'll start crying because I'll say, my little brother won't know my grandma. And then now every time I hold him up to a picture of my grandma, he'll reach for it. Her name starts with M and he'll go,
My best friend, Jonathan, fell into the river. And obviously he couldn't get out. Grieving, people deal with it different ways, going to talk to people and everything, and it make it way better.
The big moment at camp is the campfire. So what happens is the children, prior to camp, they write a letter to their loved one, or they get to send their letter to their loved one through the fire.
My brother always wanted to fish with me, and before he died I wanted to, but since he died I can't do it anymore.
My papa died on his birthday.
Hospice care is so vital in end-of-life issues. If we acknowledge it and honor it and talk about it and allow it to happen naturally, then people will process much better.
It's been pretty hard, but I stay strong because life is about hello and life is about goodbye.
That's good. Thank you so much, Lydia.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. I wanted to maybe get one person reflect on what stood out for them in that video. What spoke
Yes,
to
and
you?
share under the
What did
chat
you
as
relate?
well.
You can either chat or it's up to you. You can write something or talk. You can jump in and talk.
Well, may I start if it's okay?
Please. Hey, Sibo.
Hi, how are you, Noah?
What's up?
Thank you for this. What I saw, what I sensed, it's how these, mostly for the kids, it's the kids and the youth, they feel like they accepted what happened and they're just saying what happened and how it was, yes, it's something really painful that happened, but the way they're saying it, yes, it has emotion, but it's not an emotion of, it's not negative the way they say it. That's how I sensed it.
That's right. That's right. It was beautiful and cute just to see how even the other little one said, my brother is not going to be able to see my grandma. And her concern is just that. So even talking about that, allowing them to talk about what they're concerned, because their concern could be totally different from an adult. An adult could be worried about maybe where's the next paycheck is going to come from if the husband is gone or so and so. Yeah, that was a good one. Anybody else? We still have a few more minutes. I wanted us to, before we complete the slides, and of course, allow for a few more questions. And maybe Lydia and I will also chat with you regarding on some prep that we might have during the commemoration, where people can really reach and stuff like that. Anybody else that wanted to? Lydia, do you have any comment? What stood out for you in that slide?
I personally, liked how the kids are able to express how, you know, the loss they experienced made them feel. And I think, you know, even being able to talk about it, it's a major step. So that was
That's
really
right. That's right. Totally. And we have to give or create safe spaces for our children as well. Because if kids feel safe to talk about these things, they will. We know most of us as adults, we like to bottle things in. We don't like to burden others and stuff. But seriously, I think one of the kids, the youth said it, it starts by talking about it. When you express and share, maybe speak to an imam, a pastor, an elder in the community and stuff like that can definitely make a difference. Maybe a family member that you can really confide in and feel safe as well. Next slide, please.
let me share again.
Yes, so stay there for a little bit.
Here?
The previous one is a comment I wanted to make on that.
Okay.
That one. So yeah, technically speaking, it ties back into what I was saying, that in order for you to really figure out things and grieve better, for some, it might be just reaching out to a community member, or here that we have, you know, community supportive groups online and stuff like that. It could be maybe not to death, maybe somebody just went into a car accident, they lost a leg or a limb. It's the same thing. You can definitely reach out to CARMH, as I will share in my slides of the resources. There is a few groups that are out there, or you can call our clinic or Lydia's kind of organization to really channel you. The other thing is, like, for some, it's actually writing about these things, talking about it through writing, journaling. You've heard of journals. People keep journals and memories and stuff like that. The other thing is actually seeking the information, you know, about the person maybe who has died. Maybe it was a diagnosis, it happened so quick, then somebody dies. Request the information through the hospital. What really happened? Was it the procedure done? Okay, and you have a right as a loved one or a caretaker of somebody to have that information. That can also be helpful for your counseling, processing with your therapist about talking about these details. So understanding everyone is grieving differently, and especially I mentioned of the being sensitive to family members who may have actually grieving styles that may be different from yours. So give them the space, but also don't just abandon them, check in as time goes by. And then, of course, reinvesting into one another is the way for us to overcome some of these challenges. Next slide, Lydia. I like to include a list of resources here. I believe, if Lydia, I don't know if you would be able to share that kind of slide. This specifically, if you can post that on Facebook, that way people have the links, because there's a lot in actually not only the CARMH slide, but also the one that I included from the UK. I find a lot of grieving groups and stages and styles, be it the schools, be it the community centers, be it the hospitals. All of these resources are included in here. And then, of course, I included a list of those books that could be helpful based on the age, the stage, and age of somebody. Do we have any questions at the moment from the audience before we can wrap things up?
Mm-hmm.
And Lydia, I don't know if you had a few questions also, given the commemoration coming up. I know some organizations are prepping, as well as we chatted earlier, differently, different days. Do people have anything that they can think of normally that normally comes up during this week of the commemoration? Is it more about your own emotions? Is it more about you thinking about the people back home that are still living, your family members, or is it more about those who are gone before us? Is it the anger that actually gets reignited? Because these are triggers we have to talk about. We cannot run away from our realities. We have to live by one another, with one another. As our president, Paul Kagame, God bless him, he's encouraging us with even things like Umuganda. Doing things together can also alleviate some of these tensions that can be ignited overnight during these tough days.
Yes, I think the reason why we wanted this topic specifically, I think I shared right at the beginning that not only it's been a very difficult time, we lost many things, not just people, even things in a way, but at the same time, we come from, a community that have lost much. Like, loss is actually part of our history. It's part of our daily lives.
That's right.
I feel like, where we come from, it feels like, you can't lose somebody else. You're not gonna afford to lose another person. And that reality, unfortunately, it's something that is there. There's no way we're gonna avoid it. Because even myself, losing my parents, uncles, and all of that during the genocide, I'm like, oh, none of my siblings can ever die. That's impossible.
That's right.
Until the
That's
minute
right.
you face it. So, I think if you can talk about, there is that part you mentioned, even discussing with doctors what happened, how it helped us to cope. I think, we come from a very spiritual community. We pray for people, and our faith is always, God will always, do something, a miracle to heal our people. But my learning is that the healing is actually complete. That's my personal truth. It's not something that I share with everyone. Is that, healing happens completely in the presence of God. We're not healed completely until we're gone. The minute we're still here, we're gonna have to face, sickness and other things that are going to affect our health. So that's an understanding that I got after multiple losses in my life. So other people have their own truth. So how do we prepare ourselves, Noah? How do we prepare ourselves to face, different losses in our lives? Because it's not gonna stop, and we have lost so much. I don't think our body and our mind is equipped in the moment to lose other people. How do we prepare ourselves to face that reality? We prepare ourselves to welcome new babies, people who are born. It's an excitement, an exciting emotion, but at the same time, we don't prepare ourselves that we might lose somebody. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know I'm all over the place, but I want you to touch base on preparing ourselves to face the reality in a way so we can go through the grieving process in a way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Lydia. I don't think anybody will tell you, no profession, no doctor, no clinician will ever tell you that you can prepare for death or a sense of loss. The best way for me to really explain that is that we take one day at a time. I've lived through grief myself, losing 4 family members of my own siblings. And of course, each one hits you different. And you're gonna probably, based on how related or close you are with this individual, the experiences you have, the memories you had, stuff like that, all of that really accounts for somebody in the way they are grieving their loved ones. So I would say, in response to that question, watch for the ways you're really responding. Your nervous system is gonna really, maybe it's gonna be the sense of sleep you're gonna lose right away, you're gonna be angry. How are you coping with the symptoms of a loss? If it is overeating, if it is over drinking for some people, because you feel like, forget, I'm not gonna be hired again. I feel like I don't have a sense of purpose. And I must caution that a sense, when somebody loses a sense of belonging or purpose in life, that could actually be a beginning to somebody really getting derailed. Maybe somebody dies and then you find yourself like you were married, now you no longer feel like you belong, and then you start drinking or become more indulging into something. So that's something I wanted to really caution, that during this process of grieving and loss, let us not lose ourselves. That's why I wanted to ask you earlier that when you're going through whatever you're going through right now, how is that impacting you? How are you dealing with that? But one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 year at a time, the memories are good. We shouldn't be forgetting what happened to us as Rwandese or what happened in our country, but it's how we look at that scar what changes the difference. We can look at the scar and remember what we've really gone through, but we don't want to be really going back to the same experiences, like fresh memories, like it was when it happened.
But Noah, without interrupting you, I
Yes.
know you wanted us to have a conversation. I understand, the expert in grieving is actually, yes, you're right, the person who is grieving. There's no way I can tell somebody else grieve this way, or whatever. I understand. But at the same time, do you think that, as we grow older, obviously, acknowledging that reality of loss somehow, somewhat might be here in a second, might help us to go through that transition. I know it's not gonna be easier, but in a way, I'm gonna give you an example. In the past, me and my kids, we pray a lot, especially when people are struggling, we pray about it a lot. I remember we prayed for my sister for years. When she passed away, it was a disappointment. After that, as they grow older, the people in our community who are passing that they knew personally, now they're like, Mommy, we pray for these people. Why God doesn't heal them? So then I started having an open conversation with them in terms of, life and death, although I'm not an expert. And when we lost a family member due to cancer in December, we were able to go through the whole process of funeral and everything until they closed the casket. And kids were there because we had that conversation in advance, and not to normalize the pain or the loss, but I wanted them to know that this is gonna be part of our lives. Mommy and daddy are here. There's no problem. That the moment is gonna come. What can we prepare for? And learning from other community, for example, even speaking about things like, think about life insurance, talking about all those things, how, if you can touch base a little bit. I know it's a sensitive topic, but my friend, our family member that we lost in December, even before she passed, I was able to have that conversation with her because I was like, I never got a chance with my sister. I'm gonna make sure that anybody that I see that they're transitioning, if I can get that chance, we're gonna talk about those difficult conversations. And I was shocked to know that these people actually, they are really willing to hear that, and it can make our healing better in a way. When she passed, it was shocking, but I was like, what, compared to other losses, I knew that the reality would be here. So I'm not too sure. There's somebody who needs to talk as well. So
Yeah, I'll wrap up. I just have another call at the clinic, but let me summarize quickly. Seriously speaking, in relation to what you're asking there, the process of chatting and talking about these things, no matter what it is, be it the person is just abruptly just passed away because of COVID, or just a memory from the genocide, or he just got a diagnosis, it's better when we really feel safe to talk about these things, to open up, because nobody should go through a sense of pain, loss, or grieving alone. As simple as that. Be it a child, a youth, or an adult. Point number two, you are touching something that's really important that I also thought might be another conversation another day about, conversations around anticipated death or catastrophes happening, preparing our children or other loved ones. That's really normal, and I think most institutions of health, they advise us to doing that when we feel safe, counselors, psychotherapists, doctors, because nobody should feel like they're gonna die, but they're gonna die alone, or just facing death alone. They should feel like, maybe at my deathbed, I'm gonna have my daughter holding my hand and that can actually ease the anticipation of death itself. Death and dying is becoming legal here in Canada, and that's something that I wanted us Rwandese Africans to think about, for those who have their loved ones here in Canada, that somebody could wake up tomorrow and they just feel, you know what, they're going through so much pain, they can't bear it. Maybe their idea is about maybe just allowing the medication to help them die. And that's something that could be controversial in Africa. We look at that as like, you know, nobody should take their own life. It looks like. So these are things that we have to start talking about. And Lydia, I can't really thank you enough. Every time I get a chance to share with our people, I just feel like we have to keep these conversations going. And this is just the beginning of something bigger, that we have to really address mental health in Africa, in the African context, with our African people, using our professions that we can really also believe in. So thank you so much once again. I just have to run, but let me and you connect regarding the preps around the upcoming commemoration of the genocide, and see how we can support our people.
Yeah, that's okay. You can free yourself. We're gonna conclude the conversation with other people. Other people can stay.
Thank you so much.
A few minutes. Thank you so much, Noah.
Please take care. And God bless. Imani barinde mwese.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone. So sorry the conversation was yeah, but we got the most that we needed. Sivo, I think you had something you wanted to share, and then we're gonna conclude. This is seriously, it's a very sensitive conversation, and each one of us have a different understanding when it comes to life and death, because at the end of the day, this is something really, the same way we come here on this earth alone, the same way we live alone. So that's why even the understanding about it has to be individual or personal. So I can never tell someone, this is how you should think about, you know, losing someone or grieving. We just share, you know, ways and health ways that can help us to go through this. One thing we have to understand, that there's no grieving that is going to be fun. Grieving, it's supposed to be messy, it's supposed to be painful, but the importance of this conversation is to know that, you know, how are we going to allow ourselves to feel every emotion? You know, I think we saw the 5 stages of grieving. We shared that on our Facebook page as well on Thursday. You can jump there and read more often, you know, but those stages, if you can allow yourself to go through them, allow yourself to feel every emotion. If you see somebody angry, somebody denying and all of that, don't stop them from feeling that, but allow them that breathing space, that safe space to really go through them so they can heal. If you can go through those emotions, the healing becomes impossible. And there's this quote say that, you know, grieving, you can deny the grieving, but you cannot delay it. So we can just, you know, sometimes, you know, due to life circumstances, we can just, you know, numb our feelings and be like, I'm gonna move on, I will grieve this person later on when I have the time. When it's time to catch up, that's when it becomes really painful. Sibo, thank you so much, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I really liked why you guys shared, because you talked about death. Death is, for me, it's a very interesting thing, because there are people who are, let's say, sick or in a war, who die without deciding it, without wanting it. Then we see people who are very sick, they are in pain, they want to die, but the death is not coming. But then we know about other people who go and they want to kill themselves straight. People who would give anything, do anything to not die. Then you wonder, like, the only thing we know for sure in our life, like when we are born, we know for sure that one of the things that's going to happen in our life is we're going to die. Because from what we've been seeing, like, everyone so far has died. So we know it's something that is going to happen. Like, depending on how people believe, there are people who believe they won't die. That's okay. But if you know for sure you're going to die, and you know there are kids who die at 2 months, there are others who die 25, others who die at 120. That means every person has a beginning time and an end time. The life is between those 2 times. Instead of being afraid, on always having anxiety and stressing about that end time. How about you find a way to do something that is meaningful while you are still there? Instead of living in the future of when you're going to die, stay in the present and do what your heart tells you to do. When you're living for purpose, you're not afraid of that death, because you know when your end time comes, it will be okay because you've done what you were supposed to do. So I feel for me that people who fearing dying, they're the people who know somehow deep down, without allowing themselves to realize it, they are not fulfilling their purpose in life. Because when you do, you're not afraid of the end, because you will know you did it. So I would invite everyone who feel like they want to die right now. That means what they're doing in life is not aligned with what their heart wants. They have to do an introspection of themselves and think about that. And people who are fearing death too much, they're willing to do what it is not morally possible to keep that life. They have to ask the same questions for themselves. Why are they clinging on life so much? Is it because they feel like they don't have enough time to do what they're supposed to do? And maybe to ask themselves what they're supposed to do. That's how I see death. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. It just, as much as we can normalize it, I feel like that denial that it might happen, it's always heavy. But I think more we have this conversation, I think a year ago I had an opportunity to attend a class where we're learning about, the spiritual care of the dying. I was really, really challenged in many ways that I can even start this moment to think about, my end life, even having those conversations from, even with my children, because, when we think about, even you say like people would choose to take their lives, most of the time nobody would choose to take their lives. It's beyond their capacity to make that decision. That means it has gone beyond their control, their mind. Sometimes it's even an illness. In most cases it's mental illness. It's just like in where we come from, it wasn't acknowledged that most of people who commit suicide, they have somehow, they are dealing with mental illness. So so I think understanding that we start dying the minute we're born really changed my views on what is death, because the separation of a baby and the mother, that's an indication of a loss. I have lost that safe place, my mother's womb. I'm thrown in this world. Even when you lose a tooth, that's you transitioning. Even like a scar you have on your skin, you're losing something slowly until you're completely gone. So understanding that every single day we're losing to transition. It doesn't matter how many years you're gonna be here, but the purpose is that the minute we start normalizing that conversation, we focus on what matters the most. That means understanding that, Sibo, I'm not gonna see you forever. Whoever here, Christine, Noah, anyone, I'm not gonna see you forever. It helps me to cherish every single moment that I have with you, and vice versa, the other person is gonna do the same. And there's this thing saying dying happy. It's hard to say that, but what you're saying, dying happy, is knowing that I have fulfilled my purpose. What is your purpose? Your purpose is not to serve the whole world, but your purpose is really to live every single day in a way that make you fulfilled, in a way that you feel that, I have lived today. You don't need to complete 100 tasks per day to think that I have lived. I remember at the beginning, I think this is what I'm gonna share with CARY. They want us to share our stories. During the pandemic, I was overwhelmed in a way. I was like, God, what if I have a heart attack? I'm so tired. I'm so overwhelmed. And the only option was to quit my job so I can focus on my kids and all of that. And I'm like, my purpose is to inspire the next generation, especially women, my younger sisters. I want them to know that a woman can have a place when there is a challenging situation in the family. It's not up to the woman to step down. Then I started thinking about Jesus' impact. I'm like, he's been here for just 3 years, but look at all of this, and not only that, I always tell my kids, it's not, I started feeling, it's not that I'm gonna be here to see my grandchildren and all of that, anyhow I'm gonna end up going, but I want my kids to keep that memory that mommy lives for herself and for things that matter for herself. So that call is bigger than ourselves, it's bigger than our children, it's bigger than anything in your life. For my kids, I'm here as a servant. I'm not here to stay there in their life. That shows me, that's why I can be afraid to transition. So, to cope, with people that we have lost is the understanding that, if, one thing is that if God chose to take them, there's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you could have done at all. Understanding that those people wanted us to live and to stay happy. And the other thing is knowing that they're not gonna see you crying. I know we have that feeling that my loved one is watching over me. Those are beautiful, really ways we comfort ourselves, but at the same time, they can see us. So understanding that now you're standing for yourself, they will wish that you will be better, you will move on, your happiness will have been their happiness, and also understanding that feeling, when I lose someone, that's my perspective, they are gone with a part of myself and have stayed with a part of themselves. So that means for me, their memory, their presence is here to stay forever. That's why we have lost a lot of Rwandans. We have went through a lot, but even thinking about how Rwandans we call ourselves resilient is understanding that strength, that little strength we have in ourselves. I think all the people that we have lost, they will be proud. They will be proud to see us standing, being strong, and all of that. So for me, with all the challenges going on, we are losing a lot. We're going through a lot through the pandemic. But I'm like, Lydia, if I'm gone, even if I'm gone today, but I want to live knowing that I didn't give up on things that matter. So what matters the most, I stood for it. And for me, that's my peace when I'm gone. So that's what I can share. I think we're gonna end soon. Anybody has a thought or a question, you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, we are going to end the conversation. Or if you have a question.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Lydia. I know we're gonna have other workshops later, but this was really wonderful, like almost every Saturday, and we've learned so much, especially for me. Like I knew I had some knowledge about, the importance of mental health and the different ways to cope and all, but we've learned so much from different people who have different ways of doing it. And it's all because of you dreamed to do this and you chose to do this. You took a decision. You had a lot of things stopping you, but you never stopped. So thank you for that inspiration. Honestly, that's what I wanted to say. And
yeah, thank you, Christine. Thank you, everyone. It's been this project of 10 months. Sorry, 3 months and 10 workshops. Also collaborating with Murage, that would be like 11. It's been an amazing journey to serve our community. Sometimes you feel like, is the message out there in a way that it should, but when we see people reaching after, it shows that people are following, people are understanding. So thank you so much, CARY. It's amazing. I think next week on our platform, we're gonna, dedicate it to thank people who have been part of this journey. But we thank you. Continue to follow our conversation via our platform, Beyond the Veil Mission, IG or Facebook. It's a growing community. We're so happy people following and, on Twitter, YouTube. Thank you so much. The workshop or live events are gonna resume in a few weeks, but in the meantime, we're gonna continue to share with you here and there. We have so many projects that we have to sit and put together to better serve you. But anyhow, we welcome feedbacks. We thank you so much. We're gonna end this conversation. But again, if you have any question, DM us. Anyways, we can always answer. But we want to encourage you. We want to tell you that, there's hope. Beyond the veil itself, the meaning is life, is there any life after death? Because sometimes when you're struggling, it feels like there's no other life. It's done, it's gone. And our logo, you can see a caterpillar and the butterfly. When a caterpillar is transitioning, it doesn't know that it's gonna become anything else. It's over. A caterpillar in cocoon, it's like somebody who's struggling, going through tough moment of pain. You may feel like, you know, can I pull this butterfly from the cocoon so I can make its life easier? But actually, when you pull it, it's gonna die. We have to allow the caterpillar really go through that transformation by itself. What it needs, it's a breathing space, it's a safe space, so it can become. So let's allow people close to us. We're going to go through a difficult month for Rwandans. I will say all Rwandans. Please really, you know, let's just listen. Let's just accept people. Soon we're gonna see people venting, going back to the old memories. Don't be like, oh, it's been 25 years, it's been 30 years. Don't be like that. It's, you know, I told you, people we lose, we stay with, you know, part of them is left in us. So that's why we really have to be understanding. We want to, you know, with our community, we don't have that power, but beyond the veil, we're going together to help each other to see beyond our circumstances with a different lens. There's life after death. Death, it's not just dying completely. Tough moment, difficult moment may make you feel that you're gone forever, your mind is gone forever, but there is hope. I'm telling you, there is hope, and never give up on hope. We love you so much. Have the rest of your Saturday beautiful. Bye, everyone.